for a treat this afternoon. I just want to say that NRTA is blessed to have the support of the senior leadership of AARP. And today, right now, we have Nancy Lamond that's with us. You might ask, oh, who is Nancy Lamond? Well, I'm going to tell you. Nancy is the Executive Vice President, Chief Advocacy and Engagement Officer, and is responsible for driving the organization's social mission on behalf of Americans 50 plus and their families. She runs Community, State, and National, of which OCE, the Office of Community Engagement, and NRTA is under. And let me tell you, it is an honor and a privilege every day to be working for Nancy and for doing the work on behalf of the membership of those 50 plus. And I just want to note that she has the distinction of being named one of the top lobbyists every year since 2011 by The Hill magazine. It's a big deal. And most notably, our recent success lowering prescription drug prices. So it's a big deal. All right, yes. And so with that, let's get to the main event. Thank you so much, Nancy. We appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Of course.
There you go.
Well, thank you all so much. This is the most enthusiastic AARP crowd I've been with without alcohol in a very long time. I have to laugh, and maybe Lily will appreciate, you're going to hear her wonderful presentation after mine. When I had been at AARP a few years, we used to do this all-staff event, and they always had entertainment. And one year, they decided they needed somebody to play Ethel. And I was the logical choice, with the only one with white hair, pearls, and sensible shoes. So, so I feel a little intimidated standing here next to Ethel. But I'm delighted to visit with all of you. And I have some remarks. They're prepared because apparently nobody was comfortable with me just getting up and talking. But I really, it's always such a treat for me to be with volunteers. And I say that my introduction to AARP was through volunteers. My parents were volunteers in the Millburn, New Jersey AARP chapter. And there was an active retired teachers association in New Jersey at that time. They weren't teachers, but I have a very special place in my heart. So I am delighted to be here. I appreciate Al's introduction and, more importantly, his leadership. It's a real challenge anywhere, but especially in AARP, I think, to run something that isn't of itself a kind of separate, important unit, and also make it part of the overall fabric of the organization. And it's a real gift. It's very difficult anywhere. It's especially challenging, I think, put it down, at AARP. But I wanted to thank him for not only, again, the introduction, but his leadership. And thank all of you. Thank all of you for being here to celebrate NRTA's 75th anniversary. Most importantly, for being there for retired educators in your communities every single day. You know, of course, Ethel Percy Andrus founded NRTA on a very simple premise: no one should have to live in a chicken coop, and all that signified. And when she found a former teacher living in a chicken coop, she knew that something had to be done to address the economic challenges and health insurance needs of retired educators. And that something, of course, started with the founding of the National Retired Teachers Association, and it continued 11 years later when Dr. Andrus founded AARP to serve the needs of all older Americans. So you are really the root of all that we do. 75 years later, the vision that Dr. Andrus had is still at the heart of NRTA's mission and of AARP's. And really, we're not just here to celebrate the 75th anniversary of you all, but also the 40th anniversary of NRTA's merger with AARP. and I didn't want that to go unmentioned. The two organizations knew that by coming together, they would amplify the power of both to achieve the goal of ensuring that older Americans could live, work, and retire with dignity and purpose. They'd be stronger together. And being stronger together is why, more recently, we brought NRTA into the community, state, and national group within AARP. CSN includes the AARP Office of Government Affairs, our campaigns team, programs, that's basically our education arm, the Office of Volunteer Engagement, and our 53 state offices. And that's just some of the resources we can call upon within CSN. Incidentally, it was 35 years ago that AARP opened our first state office in Pennsylvania, yet another milestone for us to recognize. By bringing NRTA into CSN as part of our Office of Community Engagement, I assume you've all met Maury, we're not only amplifying NRTA's power, but also AARP's and consequently yours as well. Now, as you know, NRTA works extensively with retired educator associations on economic security issues such as protecting teachers' hard-earned retirement benefits, including pensions. And that work is done in conjunction with our team in government affairs, as well as with our AARP state offices. And it's what we like to refer to as our fierce defender role. But of course, there's much more beyond the critical economic issues that NRTA can work on with you. Issues like healthcare accessibility and affordability, caregiving, fraud and scam prevention, broadband access and affordability, and so much more. NRTA and the REAs have long been historic partners in advancing these sorts of priorities when we have mutual interests. And of course, it's an election year, which means there's voter engagement work to do everywhere, something I know that some of you have been doing with your state offices this year and also in the past. I mentioned that NRTA is part of our magnificent Office of Community Engagement. AARP has been working hard in recent years to be more visible in communities across the country. And that means engaging more volunteers, and it means being very relevant to people where they live. Many of you not only volunteer for your retired educator associations, you are already AARP volunteers, and for that, I thank you. You are the lifeblood of the work we do. Our volunteers are our eyes and our ears, helping us understand what's going on with older adults in the community. And they're also our arms and legs, delivering critical information, running events and programs, supporting our advocacy, and making sure AARP shows up strong. All this is the sort of thing we refer to as AARP being there as your wise friend, to help our constituency protect themselves and their loved ones. And retired educators are trusted members of their communities nationwide. We know that, and we value you because of that. That provides terrific opportunities for collaborative engagement between retired educator associations, AARP state offices nationwide, and staff at the AARP national office. We can never have too many eyes and ears out there, or frankly, arms and legs. While we're here celebrating NRTA's past, we also want to look forward to our next 75 years. I see so many great opportunities to amplify our power by not only continuing to work together, but finding new areas of common interest. One of these, perhaps not new, is Social Security. The Social Security trust funds will be able to pay full benefits for about 12 more years. After that, without congressional action, it can only pay 80% of promised benefits beginning in 2035. AARP believes that Congress needs to work together to comprehensively deal with the concerns we have with the program in order to protect the benefits of current retirees and future generations of Americans and shore up the program's long-term finances. We want to, absolutely. And I should say easier said than done. We want to also ensure protections for those most in need and ensure the Social Security Administration has the funding it needs to provide reliable, customer service to all individuals seeking to access their earned benefits or other vital services. And I should say, we are working very hard right now to get Social Security Administration additional funds. Its level of service to the people across the country is very, very poor. We're also working in states across the country to ensure that policymakers do not increase taxes on Social Security benefits, and that people with low and moderate incomes are exempt from paying the tax on those benefits. Another priority issue I think is ripe for us to work on together is caregiving. And I know many of you probably share with me the experience of having been a family caregiver, or maybe still are a family caregiver. In 2020, around 38 million adults provided unpaid care to an adult family member or friend with health or functional needs. And AARP is committed to supporting the financial, emotional, and physical challenges of those caregiving experiences. We're working to ensure that long-term care services and supports are truly assisting caregiving by relatives, friends, and neighbors through things like respite care and adult day services. And AARP is also fighting to get federal and state governments to provide tax credits and other financial assistance to caregivers, including paid leave to provide caregiving for a loved one. And of course, the final, or at least final area to talk about today of common interest I wanted to mention was fraud. Back in March, AARP had a big win with the passage of the Federal Fraud and Scam Reduction Act, which establishes a Senior Scams Prevention Advisory Group. It also creates an office within the Bureau of Consumer Protection to advise the Federal Trade Commission about preventing fraud targeting seniors. We're continuing to work to protect consumers from fraud and scams, and would love to team up with you to advance actions that will educate, support, and advocate on behalf of consumers to protect their financial well-being. We hope you'll join us in these journeys and more. You can call on the NRTA team if you need a wise friend and a fierce defender alongside you, or work with them to coordinate with your AARP state offices so we can be even stronger together in partnership. The past informs the future, and the future is bright, with retired educators, NRTA, and AARP collaborating to meet the challenges of those 50+ throughout the country. I want to thank you all again for being here to celebrate this great milestone. I want to also thank you all for what you've done. I know you're meeting with members of my team and others across the association. I hope you'll give them all a really rough time. The toughest Q&A period I ever had in my time at AARP was with NRTA. Consequently, I won't be doing Q&A today. No, I'm happy to answer a few. But you really have an opportunity to talk with our team about the issues that are really important to you, and be able to hear from them what they're seeing both at the federal and state levels. So again, thank you for being here. I hope you enjoy the video the team put together about NRTA's history, as well as the rest of your celebration. Enjoy it. You're also in Washington, D.C. on what might be the nicest 2 days weather-wise of the entire year. So if they let you out of the basement, you probably really want to enjoy that. Thank you so much for having me, and more importantly, thank you for what you do.